Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to see y'all. Slowly but surely getting back into getting my rest in and feeling a lot better and finished up a big week. But I want to thank everyone for coming in tonight. We're going to be talking about a little bit of anything y'all wish to talk about. And of course, we know what some people will talk about, but there's a few headlines out there. But if you're new to the channel, I want to thank y'all for coming in here. We'll have a short presentation, and then, of course, I'll go and answer all the questions, and always have respect for the mods, families, and each other, and enjoy your time with me and enjoy your time in chat. But anyway, let's see a few of the people here tonight that's popping in here. Let's see here. Dave's here, so he's driving in the Ferrari tonight. Jocelyn, good to see you. Mary, Triple S is here. Dwayne, I saw you at the members earlier. Good to see you. And here's Ruckus. What's Ruckus doing up this time of morning? Oh, my goodness. All right. Let's see here. There's some confusion. Your page showed this starting in 12 hours, but here you are. Huh. Mrs. Steve may have hit the wrong time slot there, but yeah, that's possible. And as she put it up, I was wondering how come it said 12:05 and it didn't give a countdown. But anyway, that's okay. We as we get older, we can't tell time much anyway. Morning watch is morning watch, but appreciate you. Let's see here, Katrina. Good to see you. Boss done. Wants to know when you got a Ferrari. Lane C. Right. Yes. Dave's got to get to the Waffle House, Lane. Absolutely. Let's see here. We got Grace 1 here, Boston Christian, Katrina, CJK, Chelsea. Who else we got in here? Still got a few more. All right. But anyway, guys, like I said, we're going to be talking about a little bit of anything you want. Two of the main cases, or one of the most important cases right now, of course, is what's going on out in Oregon, and is there in fact a offender out there? And regardless if there is an offender, everyone needs to be made aware of all possibilities and be aware of your situation at all time. And like I said, some of the headlines that are popping up out there from law enforcement, are they related? Is it a serial offender? It's regardless, it's an opportunity for people to be made aware that there are certain types of offenders out there, and always make sure that you're safe in your environment, and travel with friends and let people know where you're at and what you're doing, and don't put yourself at risk. And it also is an opportunity for us to recognize, because some of these people, as we look more into their background, we see that they're struggling with certain aspects of their life, regardless if it's some type of mental illness, addiction, or even homelessness. And so it's an opportunity that all of these people are easy targets for a predator. And if we have someone or that we know in, or we have a community or where this is occurring, doing the right thing, is what we should be doing. assist them in any shape, form, or fashion, for the fact that they are easy prey for predators. And have they been preyed upon in other cities? Absolutely. Each and every one of those categories. And because a lot of when you're homelessness or your addiction, that you'll have to feed that monster. And it'll put you into human trafficking, which will expose you to certain high risks. And has that happened in Oregon and Washington State? Absolutely before. When you look at some of the other serial offenders as they go out there, that's exactly who they focus upon, is a lot of the human trafficking. And what's the best ways that we can tackle that? Of course, is assisting them in some type of aid, food banks, whatever, counseling. But yeah, it's just one of those things that we've always faced as uh, in our society, that there is that element that is parallel with our society, and it's sad. But and law enforcement and Ruckus can tell you, uh, we have to go into those communities sometimes, and the people that are homeless, often, the ones that live under bridges and otherwise, there's a lot of mental illness there, and some of those people that are suffering from those can be extremely violent. And we've seen people, you can go in and you can watch where these other serial offenders have targeted these exact communities, the homeless, the human traffickers, the or trafficking victims of those. And so they're an easy target, and it's not an easy answer. And is that part of the reason that's going on out in Oregon? Absolutely. I can guarantee you that somewhere out in the Northwest and in the Midwest and on the East Coast right now, there's serial offenders that's targeting these people, just like they could be out there. And so people should be made aware of that. All right. But if you have any information about any type of offenders that are out there, absolutely make sure that you let law enforcement know. Um, Crime Stoppers of Oregon, you can contact them, contact 911. And then, of course, the other case we're going to be looking at a little bit is the Kohbergers and case as it moves forward. If you have any information on this case, make sure law enforcement has it so that justice can be found for them. Some of the headlines that are currently going on, you have where they talked about Kohberger objects to cameras in the courtroom, citing social media prejudice. I really don't care what Brian Kohberger feels. I'm pretty sure that the victims in that home that night wouldn't have liked anyone coming into their residence with a knife. And so I really don't care what he wants. And as long as, should we as a society be able to watch the court system either find him guilty of these charges or find him innocent of these charges, we absolutely should have the ability to watch what goes on in that trial, just for the transparency and make sure that justice is served, because we can learn from that. And so we should look at those. And then some of the families are not going to be going to the trial, and that's their prerogative, and I can understand that because it's going to be extremely emotional. There's going to be everything from testimony to crime scenes to, and they'll live with that testimony for the rest of their lives. And so we can't ever judge these people that wish to ever how they wish to participate in justice for their loved ones they've lost. James Patterson is writing a book and is going to team up with someone out there. I forget what the lady's name is, but and of course, my wife loves James Patterson. I can take him or leave him, but then we get to the Portland part and the Oregon cops. When we talk about the serial offender out there, they don't want the public at large to become alarmed. and I can understand that, but they do. Law enforcement does at certain times um, not make society or um, people within their jurisdictions um, aware of situations. At some point, they will, but sometimes it's after not just 6, it may be 10, it may be 12. And I always thought it was best to take, you know, the opportunity to make sure the public is aware. And they have no reason to believe deaths of 6 women are connected to possible serial offender. And I kind of argue with that. There's always reasons to believe, you know, either you have clear evidence that they are linked or you have clear evidence that they're not linked. And when you have clear evidence they're not linked, then you can start making those statements. But you need to make people aware of that. Are these victims that are listed as suspicious? Um, why is that? I mean, are they deep in the woods somewheres where they normally don't um, travel? I mean, typically women um, really don't go way off into the woods to meet their end. They're usually taken there for some other reasons. Now, occasionally you may have that, but not always. So, but anything's possible. And then they the Portland are more fearful of letting and what's happening on social media, and I understand it. We don't know which way it is right now, but we should seize the opportunity and look at it and see where it's going. All right, let's get over here to see what's happening in chat again. And let me get back up to be jumping in and back and forth between the victims. But if y'all have any questions and what's going on in chat, and at some point we'll get to the Waffle Houses, I'm sure. Oh, me. Oh, me. Let's see here. Mitzi, good to see you. I'm trying to get the chat to work here now. Dandy, good to see you also. Deb. And Nightbot. Oh, good. Nightbot's here. Oh, man, I just love Nightbot. Grace says she can't believe it. She's still awake. I can't, you know. Like I said, this is the first night I've really felt really well. I'm trying to get back into my nightlife. Been doing a lot of work, and we got a lot of work we're doing. Mrs. Steve has been working on the um, case file that I picked up out of Indiana, and so she's making copies of it. I just got home security installed. Way too many crimes being committed. Yes, any type of alarm systems, uh, everything from dogs to any type of wired system, wireless, or absolutely. And Gail says that she hates guns. That's understandable. There's some people you have to make choices, and there's I don't have any problem with those that don't like guns and those that do love guns. I've been on both sides of that. Katrina says this reminds me of the List case, and I can't say that Massapequa. I don't know how to pronounce that. Workers are safer in countries where work is legal and regulations put in place. Johns are a whole lot less likely to harm a woman when she can press charges without fear of being arrested. And there's some, that's reasonable, and it is. I believe Vegas, uh, not Vegas, but Nevada has certain laws in certain places where it is legalized. And I don't, and it is through some of those illicit opportunities where you have these offenders. The Green River, that's what he preyed upon. Now, Ted Bundy, I don't, he didn't, but each offender, just like with BTK, another one that didn't. His prey, and his victims were from a different demographic. But there are a lot of offenders that absolutely do target the workers. Yeah, cameras. I have cameras. I love cameras too. And this is true. Addiction and mental issues usually go hand in hand. That's quite often the case. Dave, Dave is stepping up the world. He's headed to OK Corral. He's going to go get him a buffet. Chelsea, me and Chelsea's on the same page. We really don't care what. Um, and I about some of these offenders, um, I, the court systems. I absolutely believe they should be in every court system, with cameras, and show us what's going on in those trials. We just watched the in Ruckus's state down there in Florida, with the football player, or the ex-football player, and of course he was found innocent today, for and I don't think it should have went to the point that it did. You know, think that they once they denied stand your ground, which I don't believe in that. You don't drive 5 miles to hunt and cause trouble at a man's home and then complain about when he chases you 100 yards back to your vehicle. And I believe that jury, and there's going to be people to argue both ways on it, but I've always argued that you go to a man's house to cause trouble, don't be surprised when he turns the tables on you. And Dandy says, I live in a university town. I kind of off put by the students now that the Idaho thing, you just never know. It's a mad world. Absolutely. Y- You know, uh, who in the world would have ever thought, um, you know, and the parallels of some of these universities sometimes, and some of the violence that happens on it, um, at least twice in Florida. You had Rollins, and then you had Ted Bundy, and the Ted Bundy parallels to what Kohberger committed. I mean, anything and everything about those two cases, from the time frame that Bundy attacked his victims in the year down in Florida, to what Kohberger did, and but of course. Bundy was blunt force trauma, whereas Kohberger was with an edged weapon. We've got a panel of people that they really don't care what BK wants, and I don't. I I hope that they put cameras all the way around him. Yeah, it's terrible about what's happening up in Canada right now with the fires, and this is probably one of the best statements that anyone could ever say right here. I'd rather 100 people stay home at night because they are afraid, while there's no offender out there, than one woman go out and get ended because there is a offender out there, but told it's safe. Absolutely. Um, you know, if I had a child, or any female that was in that part of the country, I absolutely open my door and say, "Come on home for a while until they get this sorted out and figure it out." It's you never know. Let's see. Oh yes. And law enforcement often misses this opportunity. And we saw it with Delphi, that they came out and said, "Well, everything's safe in the community." It's safe. and which wasn't the case, because we find out 6 years later that the offender was in that community that whole time, and they didn't know who he was for a long time. So sometimes law enforcement doesn't step up to the plate properly. Grace says that she likes to shoot. She practices. Uh, I do too. I like shooting. My neighbors enjoyed me shooting also, I think. And he was Green River guy. I mean, and Ted Bundy tried to manipulate the system, and tried to stay off his execution by attempting to assist law enforcement in apprehending him. It didn't work. But now he came up with some interesting leads and tips of how to look at some of these offenders, and how these offenders may return to certain crime scenes if they're a certain type of offender. And it's pretty sick what some of these people, and why they return to their victims, um, even during decomposition of what these offenders and what goes on in their minds in the fantasy world that they live in. And that's absolutely horrifying, um, and of what those individuals will do. It's just unbelievable. And Dave says that's what strikes me as odd about Oregon, where the victims were found. Absolutely, you know, um, if you find them in tents, under bridges, near the roads is one thing. Um, and I found and worked a lot of accidental deaths where people were struck due to being under the influence of anything by vehicles and get knocked off to the side of the road. But they'd have those telltale injuries of a hit and run. And because a lot of times here in Georgia, people, if it's foggy late at night and they strike something, they may think it's a deer, and on more than one occasions, we work cases where that's exactly what they said. Let's see here. Ann says, Mr. Steve, did you ever hear the Line Sisters case, Maryland 75? There's a new, well done documentary available on YouTube. Aspects resonate with Delphi, although, of course, unrelated. Let me write that down. I'll look at that. Thank you. 1975. Goodness, that's almost 50 years. Dandy, dandy. Yeah, people are. They're going to, it's the oldest profession, they say. Yes, Laura, you're absolutely correct that there's, he carried on. But now there's a lot of serial offenders that carry on those romantic relationships, and it's quite a surprise. Um, Bundy was able to do that, although she turned him in, or called him in, and reported him. But I think through the interview process and everything, he fell through the cracks like most of them do. And then BTK, same way. Oh, now this is interesting. Chelsea said one of my grad school professors was friend with Ted. She went running with him nearly every day. Lived on the same street as a sorority house. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at it. That's another one I need to look at. There's so many cases out there, and I've got my hands full wherever as it is. Hello, Miranda Lee. Good to see you. Let's see what's going on here in chat. Yeah, Triple S. That's exactly correct. He was one sick animal. Um, Goodness, what makes an offender pick a certain weapon? You know, um, sometimes I don't even use weapons. Sometimes it's may just be manual strangulation, but it's whatever drives their fantasy. Um, you have certain offenders that may use tools, hand tools, things they work with. Some people may use firearms. Some use edged weapons, um, and some of them have ruses. Um, and Who was it? John Wayne Gacy. He liked to trick them into some type of bondage and with handcuffs and things, and those victims. So there's a lot of different ways that these individuals will lure their prey, and it's all part of whatever's in their fantasy. And I mean, you just once, and that's the trick. You can't ever let someone take you to a second location. That first location, first contact is as good as it gets. And so if you ever find yourself in that position, you know, don't let them put you in a position that you're under their control, because they have to have control. And once they get control, it just doesn't work out. Yeah, Miranda, I'm doing pretty good. I'm finally getting rested up, although I've still got a lot of work. I've got a lot of stuff I'm about to get in off of Amazon, and some other stuff I had to order, getting ready for this uh, newest series of testing and reconstruction I have to do. Um, the uh, the test and the reconstructions I'm doing, we probably won't be able to make content on it until sometime in late July. I've got a lot of work to do with it. Meeting with another CSI guy up in Indiana who worked this cold case, which I can't mention the name of right now, but he did a lot of work on it, and we're going to hopefully collab on it a little bit and um, argue across the table until we figure out exactly what we can do. Yes. It makes me relieved I'm introverted. Oh, yeah. People, like I said, you can get, and you'll just have blinders on and just don't know what's going on at all. Dave, Dave is going to be armed at all times. Mystic Firefly says, I would truly wish Canada would have trials on camera for us to watch live. Absolutely. I believe they should always. Steve, what did you make of the video of BK being ticketed for stopping in an intersection? Any thoughts on behavior? Did you have any similar interactions like that in your law enforcement career? Um, I had a lot of interactions with a lot of strange individuals, and you would run across those people that believe that their understanding of the law and that their is far superior than what the officers is, and in some cases it is. Um, and but when I watched Kohberger's interaction with law enforcement and toying with that female officer, um, it kind of changed my opinion of him. And and that's why I created that video I did about that. Um, and that had I misread him, and was he more manipulative of his environment, and was he prepped and prepared, because he wasn't fearful of law enforcement at all. And what gives that person, um, you know, most people have a little bit of fright when they interact with an officer, and he wasn't that. He was very firm and um, almost toying, in my opinion, of that officer. So I looked at him a little bit different after watching his interactions. He had to be right. Let's see here. Let's see here. um, Mystic Firefly said, I had some Arabic guy come to my door on Saturday and he proposed to me. I do not know him, but he has been watching me. It was terrifying. And you should be terrified. And I hope you notify law enforcement. And this is probably one of the most key points, that you as an individual, if you've been targeted, um, you may not have a relationship, but his fantasy is he has a wonderful relationship. Um, and I think Ruckus says it that says it better than anyone when he talks about that. Is that I can't exactly how he put it, about uh, a romantic walk on the beach, and only one of you know that you're being followed, um, and uh, uh, and that there's certain people out there that operate in that manner, and they have that fantasy, and they've been in a long-term relationship since the first time they crossed paths with you. And so hopefully you've notified law enforcement of that interaction. Danny says, I carry bear spray. We have bears and bad guys. Absolutely. Yeah, there's people that BTK was. He had, grown kids. Yeah, BTK was into bondage, ropes, bind, torture, um, and end. Yeah, Gacy liked the handcuff game. Yeah, he was quite the individual. Yeah, don't ever let them take you to the second location. Never. Oh, okay. Miranda Lee, 499. You're my favorite, Mr. Steve. Love this channel. You have such extensive knowledge to share. I've learned so much from you. Thank you. There's your blue light. Mrs. Steve has enjoyed it so much that I've got back that she gets to play with the blue light again. Yeah, I don't know. When was the up in what is going on in the Canada is absolutely terrible. The you couldn't even see the you know New York and them are complaining about smoke and stuff, but the people that up in Canada, they having to deal with far worse possibilities than just smoke. Well, that's good that they're going to be in constant contact with him to ensure it doesn't happen again. And even with that being said, regardless, don't put all your trust in law enforcement. Um, and now there are some really great officers out there that will do their jobs. I've been there, but also make sure that you're well aware of the situation at all times, just in case. Dale says, "Good night. Glad you came by for a little bit there." Cunningham, sorry to getting on late. No problem. Glad to see you. Yeah, anytime you have, yeah, anytime you have a random guy, and when I was, we'd answer some of these calls sometimes, and people would say that there's someone in their backyard, or um, I answered a call one time, and this was just at the early days of 911, and the female had called 911 and hung up the phone, and I went up and answered the door, or I knocked on the door, and she answered, and 911, and she invited me in, and I went in, and there was two men at the kitchen table. Each of them had a beer drinking, and she was there, and I asked her, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Yes." And I looked at the men. I said, "Is everything okay?" And they said, "Yes." Now, one of the men was extremely unkempt and unkept, and and just messy, and the other gentleman was, you know, looked like he was dressed fairly nice. And I turned around to leave after she said that they hadn't called 911, there was no issues, and that we weren't needed. And I almost walked out the door, and I turned and I asked her, I said, "Ma'am, does that gentleman over there belong here?" And she looked at me and almost a whimper and said, "No." And I said, "Well, who is he?" She says, "I have no idea. He just walked in the house, opened the refrigerator, got two beers out, told my husband, go in the kitchen, sit down, and have a beer with him, and had no idea who he was." So sometimes random people will invade your home. And, but and that individual didn't want to leave that home either. He did, but he didn't want to leave. Steve, were you ever able to determine why the FBI were the ones that got the search warrant for Ron Logan and a month later on his house? I think it was a situation with the FBI that other law enforcement stepped back when FBI was big boys on the block and came in there and said, "We've identified and we're going to do this." And other officers, they may have been going down different avenues on parallel investigations, and they weren't so sure. And the FBI um, took the necessary steps to secure that search warrant. And it turns out that the FBI, unless there's some link with Ron Logan and Richard Allen that we don't know, um, that may cause great controversy in that trial. But that's the only thing I can think of, is that they just, for whatever reason, took the bull by the horns and went down a path that is going to be very confusing to the case. Oh yes, yeah. The way he acted with on the camera there about with BK changed, and it changed your mind about how he, and when he recognized the camera. Yes, it is interesting. Um, yeah, you need to make sure that everyone knows your situation. Yes, I got that, and actually, I'm looking at those shoes now. Thank you for that. I just I am so far behind. I've been working on this other case, and I'm so far behind. I haven't been able to answer comments or the emails. Um, Mystic says, I'm always locked and loaded. Excellent. Oh, man. Edmund Kemper, you talking about we studied him during like I said, and we studied a lot of the serial offenders um, during the CSI phase, early days of the training and the profiling, because what Edmund did to his mother was absolutely horrendous. Lena, thank you for loving it. We all love Mrs. Steve. I couldn't do anything without her. Um, y'all, if it wasn't for Mrs. Steve, y'all would be looking at a blank screen right now. I tend to not sleep at night. He was truly freaked me out. He was walking by my living room window about 6 times a day. Yes, like a shark circling his prey. Totally scary. Well, hopefully he is incarcerated right now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, be honest, can you track me on a floppy? Let me tell you. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Oh yeah, I always check things at night too. Um, now my security system, of course, we have cameras and stuff, but also we have lap dogs, um, and I don't really care how big the dog is. Some people like really big dogs, and they're fine, uh, but I just need to be woke up, and get Mrs. Steve woke up, and everything will be fine. Because I'll release Mrs. Steve. Go get him. Oh me. Yeah, if he came back by again, yes, like I said, it has nothing to do with your thoughts of what relationship you had, and you can tell him no all the time, but that doesn't click with some of these people. Um, um, you say no, but that doesn't mean they hear no. Yeah, and I ain't. What I would do, Mister, if I was you right now, this is my best advice for you right now. Go in there, pack you a bag, call someone to come over to your house, and y'all get in your car and you drive somewheres and go to their house and stay there until this situation is handled. There's no need to sit there. You're going to be a nervous wreck tonight and tomorrow, and but I would go ahead and get on the phone and call someone or call law enforcement to get you to your vehicle and have them follow you to another location, and to make sure that you're not followed by this individual. I would just get out of the house. There's no need to sit there. He knows where you're at. He came to your door. He's been outside your house. So I would go ahead and uh, make those arrangements, call law enforcement and say you need to get out of there. If you don't have a vehicle, call Uber, or call someone and go ahead and go somewhere else tonight if you live by yourself. There's no need to live in your condo and worry about him at some point um, have a mental break and he forced his way in. We don't want that. Yeah, I just go ahead and leave. Yeah. Lane is on board with me. I'd be out there if someone walked past my window like that. Absolutely. Just go ahead and leave. That'd be, you know, best thing you could do right now. Katrina says, "True crime with." I keep hearing that there's more than one person involved in this. Do you think BK did this alone? Um, yes, I believe that he did. As far as inside the house, now could there have been someone out in a vehicle? Absolutely, but inside the house, I think that yes, there's just one offender, and the reason I say that is law enforcement looked at all those videos and there was some wordplay uh, at certain times while they were looking at that vehicle early on about that of individuals, occupants of the vehicle, and it was plural. And I don't know what that was or why that was, but there is that possibility. And it's amazing. I thought I had heard that he had died a few years ago, but I guess I got to check that. Um, yeah, his mother was last victim. Um, and they said he was a huge man. He was, you know, absolutely huge. Yeah, and I have no idea, but like I said, it has something to do with his thoughts and his fantasy. It has nothing to do with what you and your relationship with him is. It's what his relationship mentally is with you. Yeah, just go ahead and leave. Brenda, I have 4 dogs, 1 deaf and blind, 1 so scared of everything would hide, and 1 that would, do anything for a treat. Yeah, so, uh, uh, well, you got 1 deaf, and, as long as it won't, regardless, of the blind and deaf ones, of course, they pretty well they're nothing other than, eating machines, but the one that would go and hide, maybe it'd wake you up as they, went, and maybe the one that would go and try to get a treat from the, of, whoever was coming in the house would wake you up also, but, yeah, that's funny. Miranda, true crime. Well, how much, if any, involvement do you think KK had in the Delphi case? Do you think he was close by waiting for Richard I? I've all, you know, if KK is not involved, some shape, form, or fashion. Now we know he's involved for the fact that he did catfish the girls. It's in the statement. He didn't deny it during the transcripts and the interview, and so and he even says that he was supposed to have met up with them, or at least that was within the interview or the transcripts. Um, and some of those, if those weren't true in the transcript, he would have said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then when he goes and looks up that DNA stuff, that just drives me crazy. Um, is it possible that um, uh, Richard Allen had also catfished them and possibly was reading some of their interactions and knew that there was going to be a meeting and stepped in and said, "Oh, this is the perfect opportunity of where I can have access to 2 victims, and this individual will get the blame." Is that a possibility? Of course. Is it? It's highly unlikely, but it is a possibility of where Richard Allen would see a meeting going on with something that he realizes is a catfish, and uh, and he's just going to take advantage of the situation. And do I think there's some type of involvement? Yeah, we know that Kagan Klein played some part, but how will it come out in court? I have no idea. Okay. Yeah. Edmund Kemper was 6'9". One night I was on patrol and I was going down the road, and there was a car in the ditch, and a man standing there next to the car, and he was DUI, and so I got out and was talking to him, and he stood in the ditch, and obviously he could barely stand up, and I told him, I said, "Well, I'm going to place you on arrest for DUI," and he said, "You really have to do that, officer?" And I said, "Yes, we really have to do that." And he said, "Man, I don't really want to go to jail." And I said, "Well, you're really going to have to go to jail." I mean, I was being very nice. He was being right on the border. And I said, "Well, go ahead and step up here, um, and I'm going to put handcuffs on you." And when he stepped up out of that ditch, I came somewhere just below his pockets on his shirt. The guy had to be 7'1". I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "You just go over there and get in the car. Go get in the back seat. I'll worry about handcuffing you later." He was huge. Oh me, middle of the night, and I really didn't feel like having to fight that guy. But it was absolutely funny when I look back at it, thinking, "Man." Oh, okay. Now Dandy is well prepared here. She has a old lady guard dog, 4 attack parrots, and a kitty that likes to bite. My dude has a dude has a gun in the headboard. She's good. Excellent. There's Nan R. Good to see you. Yeah, you don't want Mrs. Steve doesn't wake up in the middle of the night in a good mood. And geese are. Peacocks, geese, a lot of those birds absolutely will um, absolutely make sure that you're aware. They don't like to be disturbed. Hello, Cynthia. You're not late. You're fine. Like to have a shotgun. Got one right there. But I sleep with a Kimber loaded at night and daytime too. 357 long, shoots good. Ladies, get you a weapon. Don't be afraid of it. Um, Mr. Steve, have you ever felt your life was in danger during your career? Absolutely, but it's not a real big deal. I was paid to do a job, and I did my job. Um, and probably should have at least several times. Um, just by the luck of the draw, I survived, I guess. Now, this is true. A 16-year-old Chihuahua and a 6-month-old American Bulldog. I'm more scared of the Chihuahua. And pound for pound, there's nothing more fierce than those little old Chihuahuas. Yeah, missed it. Go ahead and leave. Hello, Mike D. Good to see you. That's funny. In college, I dated a guy who was 6'5" and I'm 5'2". My anthropology teacher had a field day with that in class. My father was 6'4" and my mother was 5'1". And so, I mean, he looked like, she'd come up above his elbows. Oh, heathens. Now that's a good term. Katrina, I agree with you. I've been bit by a chihuahua. Nasty little heathens. that's that's funny right there. Heathens. Um, Sando Rock says, "Why do you call this morning watch? Where are you located? I thought you were in the USA. I am in the USA. morning watch is something that we used to do on in law enforcement, that from 12 a.m. till sunrise is what they call morning watch, and so um, and then that's just like I said, it's just part of what we of our schedule in law enforcement. Mrs. Steve has a dog up there right now with her named Maggie. Maggie bites me about 400 or 500 times a day. All she likes to do is chew me. She doesn't have any teeth, but um, you know, whenever I go up there to get in bed in a little bit, she'll attack me as soon as as I get into bed. She, I've never seen anything like her. Uh, she just, that's her room, that's her bed, and that's her Mrs. Steve. And whenever I get around Mrs. Steve, it's time to bite Mr. Steve. And that's I like this. 9 pound dog is to warn them. The 90 pound dog is telling them should have listened to the little guy. Ah, that's funny. Well, Katrina, I'm glad that you're able. It's I'd be sleeping if I did not have a morning watch to watch. I stay up for this. Thank you. I appreciate that. Napoleon syndrome dogs. That's a great description. Oh man, yeah. Um, Chihuahuas, they are. Like I said, all you got to do is wake up Mrs. Steve. That's all we need to wake up. And whenever I go up there, um, um, like I said, Mrs. Steve will get woke up because Maggie, as she's biting me and is running across the bed full speed um, with her uh, gums. Um, but every now and then she'll get a bone and she'll almost break the skin with her gums. Dog defender. I love that you're so good natured about it. My LE Hub, not a fan of my dogs. Mrs. Steve, there's not a dog I've ever seen that does not like Mrs. Steve. Um, and actually, whenever Purdue RM, when we was staying at their house, she has this big old standard poodle. And I think it was in the first 10 minutes, I have a picture of Mrs. Steve on the floor with Winston laying in her lap. Um, and so, and that's Mrs. Steve's never seen a dog that she doesn't appreciate or doesn't want. I have a cat that runs away from strangers and a parrot in a cage. If you put your hand in the cage, that's crazy. That those birds. Let's see. Yeah, Tom Webster. Yes, he does have a good channel, and he's very thorough. Extremely intelligent guy, and he did a great deep dive on Missy Beavers, and but now he is not short winded. There's nothing short winded about the fella. Mary's L12 says, I missed a day or two, but I hope that your trips north were productive and positive outcomes for your cases. I hope that they will be. We won't know from the DNA lab for up to 3 months. But this newest case I'm working on, um, hopefully we get some results on that. No, I hadn't heard about the K9 officer who saved a woman from 2 attacking dogs. Yeah, some of those dogs, for whatever reason, they get that pack mentality and they'll attack in packs, and it's not a good thing. I mean, I've been bit by dogs with teeth, and had to go get stitches before too. Do you think BK will end up getting the capital punishment? I know innocent until proven guilty. Everything coming out seems he is good. Yeah, the probable cause affidavits are very, very incriminating, and hopefully that will be on the table. And if he's found guilty of it, he deserves it. That's the other dog that's up there. That Maggie's not. I don't know what Maggie is, but Penny is a Yorkie mix, um, and she's probably 4.5 pounds, um, and doesn't wouldn't hurt a fly. And there's probably no better advertisement than this statement right here. Keys said that he looked for when he was stalking home if there were signs of a dog. If he saw signs, he skipped that home. That's a great endorsement. Wherever you go with the dogs. Yeah. Talk about you think Murphy might have bitten the offender he was heard playing. Now, if he's playing and or if he's growling and barking, um, and I don't know, but hopefully, if he was bitten, and hopefully he was, and I hope he was bitten for this reason that if Murphy did bite him, there's more DNA there, and they just had to sort out that blood pattern analysis. That if he was leaking any blood, they'll have that up there. Um, I hope that is the case. I hope he did get bit. Yeah, I'm disappointed also, Miranda, about Missy Beavers. I ran away when I was 5, and a stranger found me and took me to reading, called the cops. Years later, it became the Waffle House. Even made the local news. You're lucky, lucky, lucky. It's restaurant. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't make out what a Regan or was, but it's a restaurant. Okay. The winch says, "My dogs are trained to patrol and attack. They're literally junkyard dogs." And I've seen some of those type of dogs, and and you're right. You on a lot of areas where we have lots because we have a large um, lake, um, and on that lake there's a lot of boat uh, dry docks and fenced in, and they put those dogs in there, and those dogs are not friendly. Junkyard dogs. Mrs. Steve is also allergic to cats and dogs, and so we have poodles. Although Maggie isn't a poodle, but Mrs. Steve, she'll put up with the allergies just so that she can have a dog. Joseph D'Angelo. He hated dogs. Didn't know that. Now, this is a mix. I have no idea. I had never heard of the Cane Corso. Now, Mastiff, German Shepherds, of course, I've heard mix, but that first one, I don't know what that is. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna have any pet spiders. Yeah, yeah. Mystic, absolutely get out. There's no need to be restless and tired, and until y'all get that sorted out. Oh, my Chihuahua Ferocious was there when I got mugged. Guy even tied his leash to my leg. Mm, Ferocious. What a name for a dog. I hate that you got mugged. Yeah, I've uh, never heard of those. I'll have to look them up. Oh, me. Uh, Winch says, I know the lake. First, you have to make it past the copperheads and warmucks. We have a lot of copperheads here in Georgia. And a little bit further south, although we used to not have any armadillos, but they used to say, and it is, I still think pretty true that most of the war moccasins are making south, but that line will move more north as it's warming, and as far as war moccasins, our heathen was, you know, there's Frank. Good to see you. Dave said, if a stranger comes into my house, he better have food. He better have something. All righty, guys. Well, we've been here. Miranda Lee says, Danger Dave, Waffle House food. That's funny. And at the Winch, what lake? All righty. Well, we've been here a little bit over an hour. I appreciate everybody coming out for the morning watch. And but absolutely take care of yourself out there. If you got that nut walking around outside your house, I would go ahead and um, call law enforcement if you have a vehicle, and if you don't, have someone come and get you. Just make those arrangements. Don't sleep there tonight. But send me an email if you wish. I'll absolutely try to help you out any way I can. Um, but y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see you soon. I appreciate all the support. And if you like the video, hit the thumbs up, like it, share it, subscribe, and y'all stay safe. And I'll see y'all, let's see, in a day or two. Night, guys.